Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Jacob Silverman, co-author of Easy Money, Cryptocurrency, Casino Capitalism, and the Golden Age of Fraud. Also a writer at the AM Quickie, amquickie.com. Quick headlines every day. Jacob, welcome back. I think since the last time you were on the program, maybe it was talk about the book, I can't remember. It seems like all these guys took all that money in this Bitcoin run and converted it into politicians and essentially just basically bought politicians with it.
They were the second biggest spender of the crypto industry in this election cycle after, I think, oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for a lot of it, they were, neck and neck, and Fair Shake, the main crypto pack, was raised something like $140 million. Despite the industry not really doing very well in the last couple of years or really becoming very useful to the general public, they have more money than ever to spend on politics.
And let's just, sort of like baseline that comment you just made, because the idea with cryptocurrency was that it was going to be a currency. And now it just seems like, and to be fair, if we had taken crypto, if we had taken Bitcoin, like somebody wanted us to like 10, 12 years ago for our membership, I don't know how much we would have, but it would be worth a lot of money. But also, if my mother had not thrown out my baseball cards and the first edition of Firestorm, which I had as a DC comic, that would also be worth a lot of money, right? I mean, it's not a currency, but it's a speculative like commodity.
Yeah.
Is it even a commodity, or is it more like just like a collectible?
Well, the CFTC calls it a commodity for regulatory purposes, but the economic argument I've heard is that it's not an input like oil or gas or corn or things that we normally think of as commodities. You can't turn it into something else or use it for any purpose besides really the speculation that you're talking about.
Well, to be fair, you could use it for money laundering, drugs.
And that turns out to be it's one real use case. I mean, despite what there are lots of ways that the crypto industry denies this or says, of course, the US dollar is used for lots of money laundering. But the main use case still for crypto is that it's incredibly useful for transporting value across borders for money launderers, drug cartels, and groups like that.
Particularly Tether, right? Particularly yes. to just...
What is Tether?
Well, I mean, Tether, isn't that the cryptocurrency that is the shadiest? And it's also the one that Cantor Fitzgerald has the greatest amount of holdings in, and now he's going to be
tell us about Tether.
Commerce Secretary.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Tether, it's sort of like the company that makes the crypto tokens that kind of act like the chips at the casino. And one way of thinking about it is what if one company made the chips used at every casino in Vegas? So the main token that they distribute is called Tether or USDT. It's pegged to the dollar. It's called a stable coin. So it's supposed to stay at this $1 peg. And it's sort of like a digital dollar. I mean, some people in law enforcement think that it actually is counterfeiting the dollar by making this sort of digital fake dollar. And so large institutional investors or perhaps other shady people we don't really know about buy large quantities of Tether, supposedly using US dollars from the company, and then sell it into the market. And a lot of people use Tether, whether it's to launder money or to use it to buy other crypto on exchanges, because it's a lot easier to move it around from exchange to exchange or to make transactions with it than it is to try to connect your legitimate bank account.
But Jacob, I was told that cryptocurrency is a way to combat the inherent volatility of the United States dollar and fiat currency. Why would you need a cryptocurrency that's tethered to the price of the US dollar if that were the case?
Well, the new line from the crypto industry, especially as you have Howard Lutnick, who is from Cantor Fitzgerald, which is the big US sort of financial partner of Tether. And the new line is that Tether actually perpetuates dollar hegemony, where they're actually extending the usage of the dollar into other places, especially, those other places tend to be countries with high inflation or unstable monetary systems, and places where cartels and terrorists and kind of other bad actors work, or sanctions evaders, whoever else. So I don't know if we want the dollar extended to those places, much less being distributed by a private company that is based out of the Caribbean, whose founder hasn't really been seen in public in years. It's also banned from doing business in the state of New York. One thing that I've really wondered about actually is how can Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald do all this work with Tether? They're now invested in the company. They own a piece of Tether. They manage billions of dollars in treasury funds for them. But how can they do that if this company is supposed to be banned by the New York AG from doing business here in New York?
So wait a second. Tether is pegged to the US dollar. It is a digital currency. How is that? I mean, and you know, I get, I'm open to being mocked because I don't fully understand this, but how is that conceptually different than, like, I don't know, Venmo? Like, I mean, Venmo, I understand is a process, but I'm not actually, you know, if I Venmo Emma 10 US dollars, you know, I'm not actually handing her 10 physical dollars. I've got Venmo has some type of representation of some Venmo currency that is pegged to the US dollar, and they just happen to call it the US dollar, and they give it to Emma, and they take, you know, a little cut for the service of me transferring that. How is Tether different?
Well, with Venmo, it's regulated in the United States, and there's some assurance that when you send money, that actually is going to happen, and that's connected to real dollars to your real bank account. Tether, there's a widespread belief, and it's been cited and proven in some court cases, that in the past they've printed or minted Tether without actually having the dollars backing it. So if you have an offshore money printer, I mean, the temptation is to just print money. They claim that every time they mint $1 billion worth of Tether, which they do a few times a month, that someone is giving them $1 billion real US dollars, and they have that in the bank, so that if anyone wants to redeem Tether, they can give back the US dollar. So I think the real difference here is you have no guarantee that there's actually any money behind this, and it's just this parallel offshore unregulated.
But wait. But how is this different than basically, in terms of like liability and risk factor? How is it different than like all of these securities that we created in 2008 that were, loans from banks? I mean, it's like a loan from a bank when it's not dollar for dollar in the bank. Like, their capital requirements are 10% of whatever it is that they're out there loaning. So they are loaning $100 and they only have 10 actual dollars in the bank. Mm-hmm. And, the capital requirements was a big issue in the financial crisis. With Tether, they're saying we've got $100 in the bank, but we don't really have to prove it to anybody, and we're not regulated, so there's no regulators coming by to see, because it's possible they have no monies in the bank.
Yeah, they claim to be very profitable. I mean, they claim to be one of the most profitable companies in the world. It's gotten a little absurd. And it's often called like a shadow bank, or sort of basically the unofficial bank for the crypto industry. I mean, everything that we're seeing in the last year, the run up in Bitcoin, is because of Tether. I mean, this is widely believed and has been studied to juice the overall crypto market and the Bitcoin market especially. It's the most widely traded cryptocurrency. So everything you've seen with crypto in the last year has been because of this company that has already been fined tens of millions of dollars by U.S. regulators. That's being investigated all over the world, and now has a voice in the White House.
Can you explain to me? We should say, I mean, you keep talking about Cantor Fitzgerald and this guy Lutnick. The reason why it's particularly relevant is he's now the Commerce Secretary.
That's right. Apparently, also he's going to have some authority over the U.S. Trade Office, but I'm not as familiar with that. But he lost out to be Treasury Secretary. I think that was a scary proposition for a lot of people. I mean, the cryptofication of the Trump administration is well underway, but that would have been sort of another level, that a guy connected with a company that facilitates money laundering all over the world was going to be Treasury Secretary.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.